Okay. Welcome to the eighth basic competency for trainers methodology level 1, which is to foster and promote an inclusive learning culture. So first is you have to practice inclusivity. So as an introduction, all people should have an equal opportunity to succeed in education. This is regardless of their background, academic ability, and cognitive level. For a school community to be safe and welcoming, it must embrace and value diversity and individual differences. Therefore, all schools should promote inclusive practice in both their teaching methods and educational activity. And first, what is inclusive practice? Practice is a teaching approach that recognizes the differences between the students and uses this to ensure that all students can access educational content and participate fully, in their learning. It understands that no two pupils are the same and ensures that the lessons and activities accommodate this. This can be further be shown sa ating characteristics of learners as well as adult learning principles. So first is you should assess your teaching methods. You should take time to reflect on your teaching methods and practices and why you teach you how you do. Your educational background, upbringing, personality, likes and dislikes, and opinions all affect your identity and therefore subconsciously the way you teach. Start to consider how your identity affects the way you act, how you deliver your lessons, and how you design and choose your resources. For example, do you read books at the start of every day because that is what you did at school? Do you base your activities on what you think the children will enjoy? Or do you think about how you plan your lessons, the reasons behind them, and whether they are equal and accessible for all students? So maliban po sa ating mga trainees and students in the future, you should also assess how you teach. So as trainers, we have different training methods too, and it may very well be reflected on how you learn as well. Examine your affinities and prejudice. So as well as assessing your teaching methods daw, you should think about any opinions that you might hold towards certain people or groups of people. This includes any empathy or prejudices that you might have. For example, you might have an affinity for a student who reminds you of your own child, or you may have prejudice towards a child who reminds you of someone you previously taught. Take the time to think about these things. They are often subconscious, so may require some digging. Then think about whether they are inclusive or if they are disadvantaging certain pupils. So, especially we are adults, and as well as yung ating magiging future trainees are adults then. So, as adults, we have certain affinities, prejudice, and also biases. Now, we need to be addressed. And as long as it is advantageous on our trainees, it shouldn't matter. But if it has disadvantageous or I don't know negative aspects on how you see your trainees, you should be objective about it. Embrace variety. Inclusive practice aims to ensure that all children can flourish in education in spite of any challenges they face in their daily life. To make sure that this is the case, you should use a variety of teaching methods and be flexible. So that is why we promote different learning methods and for us to really know the characteristics of our trainees when we start a training session. Next is to promote and respond to diversity. So in our increasingly diverse and multicultural society, which is more evident than now in the Philippines, it's more important that even for the teachers to incorporate culturally responsive instruction in the classroom, whether teaching elementary school, middle school, high school, or even sa atin sa alternative learning or technical education. And the increase of diversity doesn't only relate to race and ethnicity. It can include students from different religions, culture, economic status, sexual orientation, gender identity, and language background. So why is it important to encourage the diversity in schools and workplaces? Fostering inclusion and awareness around multicultural education and thinking a culturally responsive approach to teaching benefits all students. Not only those who creating greater multicultural awareness and inclusion help students with different backgrounds and needs succeed, but it also encourages the acceptance and helps prepare students to thrive in an exponentially diverse world. Diversity in and out of the classroom will continue to grow. So it's essential we prepare students to adapt to an evolving world and embrace those different from themselves. Learn more how the program, etc. Okay. So why is it important then to teach culture? In order for us to be able to promote inclusivity and through the existing diversity sa ating society, we need to first teach what those culture or other aspects of that may discriminate or separate them from one another. We should be culturally aware. So it is important daw po to remind ourselves why diversity and cultural awareness is so crucial in the classroom and the benefits it can have on students now and in the long term. Teaching diversity exposes students to various cultural and social groups, preparing students to become better citizens in their communities. These culturally responsive teaching strategies will help you to promote diversity in the classroom. With these cultural responsive teaching strategies in mind, it is important to remind ourselves why diversity and cultural awareness is so crucial in the classroom and the benefits it can have on students now and in the long term. So next now is students become more empathetic when we teach culture sa ating classroom. So, promoting awareness and creating a personal connection with diverse cultures in the classroom can prevent students from developing prejudices later in life. Um, I think the general idea on promoting cultural awareness to the classroom is because ignorance sometimes can fuel hatred. If we don't understand or comprehend a certain subgroup of a culture, an orientation of gender or preferences, religion, and other subgroups that can be discriminated against, we are more gravitating hatred towards them because we don't understand. So the responsible thing now is to be able to be empathic or sorry, empathetic so we can relate to those cultures. So the way we do it is to actually promote cultural awareness as well as the inclusivity. Next is students gain better understanding of lessons and people. When working and learning with people from a variety of backgrounds and cultures present in the classroom, students gain more a comprehensive understanding of the subject matter. That is because we generalize or we summarize all opinions from all angles or as many angles as possible in order for us on how we see the perspective of a certain topic. So diversity most of the time promotes more broad understanding of what the subject matter really is. Next is students become more open-minded naturally by exposing students to a diverse range of opinions, thoughts, and cultural backgrounds. You're encouraging them to be more open-minded later in life, of course. This will help make them open to new ideas and be able to attain a greater comprehension on a topic by taking in different points of view. And lastly, students will feel more confident and safe. So when we when we discredit prejudices and other negative discrimination and other aspects then when it comes to a subgroup or a or a category different from us, we tend to be more safe and confident towards the society itself and how we communicate with those said subgroups of people. Students who learn about different cultures during their education feel more comfortable and safe with these differences later in life. This allows them to interact a wider range of social groups and feel more confident in themselves as well as in their interaction with others. So next is developing and implementing work strategies to support inclusivity. So building a classroom community where all students feel a sense of belonging is an area most educators spend weeks of school, especially in the first weeks of school focused on. We know that creating a safe space of different learning styles, genders, racial, religious, and ethnic backgrounds goes well beyond the first month back in our classrooms. That's why one of the first methods on planning the training session is for you to be able to to understand and makilala natin ang ating mga trainees through the use of what we call the pre-training assessment tools, which consists first of the characteristics of learners. So dito natin siya makukuha yung deeper understanding as well as developing implementing strategies or methods to support such differences. Number one is getting to know your students and let them get to know you. So that is why we again practice the pre-training assessment tools, and at the same time it covers much ground for you to be able to create a safe and healthy learning environment within the confines of your classroom. Number two, creating a safe space for students to share. So as teachers, it is our responsibility then to be able to conduct or facilitate not only camaraderie but also collaboration as well with our students. I know for a fact that if it is on the online classroom setting, it may be more difficult. But at the same time, we should really promote the inclusivity as well as cultural or social awareness when it comes to the different aspects or different subcategories of society. Number three, deliver instruction in a variety of ways. So again, sa ating competency-based training, again, this is a training delivery approach that focuses on the competency development of the learner as the result of the training. It focuses on the development rather than the learning process. So, ang mahalaga po sa competency-based training is for them to be competent. Kaya siya competent-based training. Napaka-flexible po ng learning processes, and we as the trainers, it is our responsibility to provide a variety of ways in order for them to be able to to learn the said topics. Number four, choose relevant literature. Part of the culturally responsive teaching includes providing students with literary works that highlight the human experience. So dapat din as well as yung learning materials natin are culturally inclusive. That's inclusive learning materials may even make the learning easier than rather than alienating the said students pagkahawak nila yung said learning materials na yun. Number five, it also should also invite guest speakers to share their stories. So if of course, especially if you have a very diverse or a different type of subcategory of culture or social aspect of yung mga trainees niyo, should basically relate to them, and one of the ways to do that is to actually have a parang a bridge onto them through the use of guest speakers as well as other methods of training delivery. Next is promoting a learning culture. So for an introduction, of course, learning is a culture. It starts as a culture with the students as human beings needing to understand their environment. And it ends as a culture with students taking what we give them and using it to those physical and digital environments they call home. Further, learning is ongoing, perishable, and alive, just like culture. So first is creating culture in the classroom. So what about the culture in your classroom though? Can you promote a certain culture there strategically, or does it just happen? The seemingly random product of a student roster assignments mixed with your personality as a teacher. The short answer daw po is that the culture of learning is a collection of thinking habits, beliefs about self, and collaborative workflows that result to a sustained critical learning. Um, this is actually evident when you become trainers na. Every set of sessions, training sessions, or every batch na inyo tuturuan is significantly different from one another. It is your responsibility as the trainer to be able to cope up with those differences. Sometimes meron tayong batch na makukulit, meron tayong batch na tahimik, meron tayong batch na one time nagkaroon ako ng batch na puro high ranking officers. So that is very challenging for me to be able to relate to them kasi virtually or ano no sa career standing namin basically syempre dapat I am below them in the standing of the said career. So dapat me as the trainer I should be able to ano no to earn their respect as well as the authority dahil ako yung trainer within the meeting. So use the gradual release of responsibility model in promoting a learning culture. First is you have to show them. Model the thinking habits, beliefs about self-collaborative workflows that result in sustained critical learning. You should demonstrate the think alouds, reflective writing, metacognitive conversations, and other human practices and habits that lead to learning. Number two is to syempre help them then. Help students do their own what you just showed them how to do. Put them in groups, have them publish their thinking in a certain podium or podcast. Give them soft cushions to land on when they fail. Offer strategies, coaching, and general support to help them publish their thinking. Help them self-assess their own performance, of course. Help them create their own standards and help them revisit old ideas and opinions, projects, or what have you. Number three is to let them. The final stage of promoting a culture of learning is to simply get out of the way. So sometimes kasi, especially kaya ang tawag po sa atin sa TESDA are facilitators. We only facilitate the learning, but the learning is learner based. So it will also depend on the situations or for a generalized term of your trainees. Trabaho po ng isang trainer to cope up with certain aspects that may very well be affecting the the learning development of your learners. Give them only just enough for them to take off their own a topic, community, project, an app, or what have you. So next is sustainability. If we consider the definition of culture as the customs and beliefs of a community of human beings, then the fact that culture both precedes and proceeds from learning makes sense. There is an ecology to the learning process that can't be extracted, unpacked, or tightly sequenced to fit into some edu box the way we hope it might. Next is monitoring and improve work practices. In this digital area, employees can work on the go, communicate seamlessly with each other, and use online tools to streamline time-consuming tasks. The downside is that they spend less time working productively. So, why you should monitor work operations? According to a survey daw, the average employee is productive for less than 3 hours in an 8-hour workday. Most office workers spend their time reading news websites, gossiping, checking their social media feeds, or even searching for new jobs. Basically, especially in the digital era and as well as the pandemic era, na lahat ay can be done through online, through firstly yan through the use through the through the availability of resources na kaya natin gawin ng online ang mga bagay-bagay. Pangalawa, the pandemic forced us to to keep pace with the said technology because it is available to us, and it parang pinush ng pandemic siya to be able to to cope up with what we call the new normal. So in addition to these distractions, now there are plenty of other things that can hurt a an employee's productivity and overall performance. Low team morale, limited access to technology and equipment, poor communication, workplace conflict, and bad management are a few examples. So first daw, you should make a checklist for items to monitor. Siyempre, for you to be able to gather evidences or monitor their learning, their progress, you should be able to make a checklist or a criteria of what you should be able to observe. Next is setting realistic business goals and objectives. Poor communication, misunderstandings, and conflicts can have a dramatic impact on the set realistic business goals and objectives. A common problem with many startups and small businesses is having unrealistic and unclear goals. This creates a workplace culture where failure becomes expected. Set realistic objectives for the next quarter, etc. You should be able to set realistic goals in order for you to be able to to satisfy or monitor thoroughly, or given na take into account na rin natin yung other aspects ng business natin, or on our case, the learning process. Siyempre, hindi lang naman kayo yung taong involved on the learning process, and you should be able to cope up with the said differences. Next is to consider offering incentives to your employees, syempre, to boost their motivation and engagement. For example, you may offer additional training, bonuses, or flexible work schedules. Recognize and reward your top performers with an additional day paid, what have you. And you should always offer incentives or give constructive, positive feedback when a job is well done. And you should always also rather give recommendations for negative feedbacking. Next is to collect and analyze employee feedback. For employee communication, misunderstandings, and conflicts can have a dramatic impact on workplace operations. These problems affect employees' motivation, increase turnover, and harm a company's reputation. You should be able to collect employee feedback. It is an effective way to monitor and improve workplace operations. Take time to talk one-on-one with your team members and hold regular team meetings. And lastly, pay attention to nonverbal cues when walking around the office. Do you see tight faces or downcast eyes? Are they constantly missing work or time off? These red flags daw may indicate that something is wrong. So try to determine the cause and address any potential issues in a timely manner.